Francesco Bagnaia's weekend started with real hope and ended with a hard dose of reality about how his 2025 MotoGP season is going. After finally securing his first pole position of the year at Brno, Pecco looked like he might be on the verge of a breakthrough. The two-time world champion had spent the entire season trying to get the unpredictable Ducati GP25 under control, and that Saturday lap gave fans a glimpse of the Pecco they remembered, confident, composed and fast. But as the weekend unfolded, so did any belief that he's still in the title hunt. Pecco didn't just miss the podium in both the sprint and the main race, he walked away from Brno with more than just lost points. What he carried home was a heavy dose of reality. For the first time, he openly admitted it. "We must be realists," he said, after coming in fourth on Sunday. "It's hard to think about fighting with Mark in these conditions." That wasn't just Pecco being humble. It was a clear, public acknowledgement that his championship hopes for 2025 are fading fast, and the issues he's been battling since round one, he's starting to believe they might not be fixable at all. To really grasp how big that statement was, you have to go back to Saturday. Nobody expected him to take pole, not even him, but with a flawless lap and the yellow flag freezing the timesheets, Pecco shot to the grid and beat out Marc Marquez for his first pole of the season. It looked like a possible turning point. Instead, it quickly turned into more of the same frustrations. During the sprint race, a software glitch gave Pecco a false warning about low front tyre pressure. Worried about getting penalised, he eased off the pace, only to learn later that the alert wasn't real. That hesitation dropped him down to 7th. Then, in the main race, after grabbing the whole shot into turn 1, he was overtaken within 3 laps by Marco Bezzecchi, Marc Marquez and Pedro Acosta. From that point on, Pecco kept pushing. He even closed the gap to Acosta late in the race, but the charge came too late. He ended up 4th off the podium again. It wasn't just a rough outing, it pointed to something deeper. In the first part of the race, I was struggling quite a lot with my feeling on braking on entry, Pecco told MotoGP.com, but then he realised that dialing back the traction control actually helped a bit, so he started reducing it, one step, then another, and by the end of the race, he was finally feeling more competitive. That kind of adjustment, made mid-race, showed guts. Manually tweaking the electronics to make up for mechanical issues isn't something you see often, and when a rider like Pecco starts turning off the safety systems just to get comfortable, it really says something. Pecco's frustration isn't new, but it's definitely getting louder. He's been open for months about how the GP25 has made him lose confidence under braking. And Brno, where strong downhill braking is key, just highlighted the issue again. This time, he didn't hold back. "I've always been strongest on the brakes, very hard to overtake me there. When someone tried, they'd usually go wide," he said. "Now I'm the worst. Everyone passes me." That's a shocking turn for a rider who built his success and 2 championships on late braking and confident trail entries. What used to be his strength is now his weak spot. Technically, the Ducati GP25 still has the braking performance, but for Pecco, the feel just isn't there. The rear of the bike isn't rotating the way he needs it to, and the confidence to slide it in on corner entry has disappeared. After testing the larger 355mm brake discs back in Aragon, Pecco has gone back to using the smaller ones, but this time with a new brake pump to mimic the larger disc feel. While it's helped with the lever response a bit, the core issues are still there. "It's still very tough," he said. "There's a lot of movement, a lot of locking, and it's hard to brake the way I want to." Last season, he was known for braking late and aggressively. This year, everything has to be controlled and straight. The rear end isn't doing its part to help slow the bike down. Worse yet, he's starting to lose hope that Ducati can solve the problem. "I don't think we will improve it," Pecco admitted. "Maybe in the test at the end of the year we'll understand a bit more, but for now we won't improve. Maybe we can just adapt." That's not just a technical problem, it's mental too. The more Pecco doubts the bike, the more he questions if he can even win with it. And to make things harder, his teammate is making it all look easy. Marc Marquez just walked away from Brno with his 5th consecutive Grand Prix and sprint double. He's now leading the championship by a massive 120 points over his brother Alex and by 168 over Pecco. And this dominance isn't coming from a superior machine. Ducati Corsa general manager Gigi Dall'Igna admitted after the race that their early advantage this season has faded. The others have really raised their heads, Gigi said. It feels like a moment to get back to work, not think about vacation. He pointed out that teams like KTM and Aprilia have made huge progress, partly thanks to development concessions that Ducati no longer has. He also acknowledged Ducati took a conservative approach to upgrades in 2025, which was somewhat expected as the grid began to balance out mid-season. But even with all that in play, one Ducati rider is still getting results: Marc Marquez. Only Marc was able to make a difference with our bike, Pecco admitted. I don't know why it was so difficult to ride the GP25 here, and only he managed to stand out, especially in the left-hand corners. I tried to make the difference in the right ones, but I couldn't. That's a tough pill to swallow for any factory rider, especially one who's supposed to be leading the team. Right now, Pecco's not just trailing Marc in the standings, he's behind him in confidence, in adaptability and in outright speed. Even with the points gap and all the technical headaches, Gigi Dall'Igna still stood by Pecco. He was unlucky because of us, Gigi said, referring to the false tyre pressure alert that hit during the sprint. A great sprint yesterday and a great race today. This was probably his best weekend so far. It might sound generous given the final result, but there's some truth in that take. Pecco was the only Ducati rider besides Marc to even crack the top 10 in the main race. He set the 3rd fastest lap of the Grand Prix and kept fighting all the way to the end. According to Gigi, he only had 3 or 4 laps in the first part of the race where the pace dropped, but then he brought it back. That's a clear sign he's improving. It's a bit of a mixed message. There's the encouragement about Pecco's progress, but also a clear signal that Ducati as a whole needs to step it up. So far, it's been a very positive season, but the advantage we had has slowly faded, Gigi admitted. Now's the time to start finding better answers than what we've got. He also cleared up the confusion around the sprint issue, explaining it was a software initialization problem that triggered a dashboard error. Basically, a malfunction in an anti-panic system. It was a one-off, but it added another frustrating chapter to Pecco's season. And the guy who kept him off the podium at Brno, Pedro Acosta. The rookie's rise has been steady all season, but Brno felt like a turning point. He finished 2nd in the sprint, 3rd in the Grand Prix, and made it clear he's no longer just a promising talent. He's a threat. Even Acosta acknowledged how close Pecco came in the final laps. I was giving it 100%. When I saw Pecco closing in at 0.6 seconds, I started pushing again and gave everything I had, he said. If I couldn't hold him off, I wanted to be sure I gave it my all. That was a key moment. Pecco was finally going on the attack, but Acosta dug deep and held firm, something Pecco might have done himself just a year ago. Pedro Acosta is now up to 7th in the championship standings, sitting just behind the VR46 duo, and he's quietly turning into a serious contender for the top 5. While his KTM still struggles when riding in dirty air behind other bikes, his raw pace and smart decision-making late in races continue to stand out. On the other hand, Pecco is starting to look over his shoulder in the rankings. His new benchmark isn't Marc Marquez anymore, it's Alex Marquez. We need to reset and focus on doing our best with Alex as the reference point, Pecco said after Brno. Clearly, our approach to the season has changed after so many races. That's just how it is now. He's no longer chasing the title, he's trying to stay in the fight for 2nd. At the halfway mark of the 2025 season, Pecco Bagnaia is 3rd in the standings. He's got 1 win, 1 pole position and a stretch of solid but unremarkable results. But those numbers don't really capture what's happening. This is a rider and a champion caught in a full-blown crisis, technically, mentally and competitively. If I had to rate my season so far, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, he said. And if I include last year, maybe a 5. Now compare that to Marc Marquez, who's averaging 31.75 points per round. Pecco, just 17.75. The gap is massive. And with Austria up next, a track where Pecco's historically performed well, you'd expect confidence. But even he sounds uncertain. Austria's the next race, and I've usually been able to make a difference there, he said. We'll see what happens. But it's not just Austria that's in question, it's the entire second half of 2025 and maybe more. Can Ducati adjust the GP25 to suit Pecco again? Can he regain that braking magic that once made him nearly impossible to pass? Or has the character of this bike simply drifted too far from what he needs? Right now, Pecco Bagnaia has never looked more vulnerable, and with Marc Marquez looking more unstoppable by the race, that's a scary reality for anyone still holding on to hopes of a title challenge. Not too long ago, Francesco Bagnaia was the clear-cut leader of Ducati's MotoGP project. He was fast, composed, and mentally tough, delivering back-to-back world championships and representing the peak of Borgo Panigale's modern era. But now, halfway through the 2025 season, that dominant image is beginning to crack, and the race at Sachsenring might have been the breaking point. While Marc Marquez continued to roll through the competition with another flawless win, most of the attention was on Pecco. Not because he was chasing victory, but because he was trying to stay afloat. A third-place finish might look decent at a glance, but dig deeper and the cracks start to show. A series of crashes ahead of him handed him the podium spot, and both Pecco and Ducati are well aware of that. It's a worrying sign for the Bologna camp. Sunday's German GP saw Pecco work his way up from 10th on the grid to finish 3rd. Under normal circumstances, that's something to celebrate, but this wasn't a normal race. 8 riders didn't make it to the finish line, including Di Giannantonio and Bezzecchi, who were right there in the same battle group. Pecco made it through, but more due to chaos around him than any dominant ride of his own. I'm happy with the result because from 10th, you really don't know what could happen, Pecco told Sky Italy. The speed to fight for the podium was there, but we still need to improve, maybe 2 or 3 steps forward. But here's the thing, at no point did Pecco actually look like a contender for the win. Marc Marquez was on another level entirely, and even Alex Marquez, who's been riding through injury, seemed to have a better handle on the race than Pecco did. Saturday was even rougher. In the rain-soaked sprint, Pecco could only manage 12th. No points. No real challenge. He admitted afterward that the problem wasn't just the bike, it was mental too. Yesterday was tough because I lacked confidence, he said. Today was a bit better, but it was still really difficult. The front just didn't feel stable. It was sketchy. And that word sketchy keeps popping up this season. Pecco's been struggling with front-end grip and confidence all year. Wet track or dry, he just hasn't felt fully dialed in with the GP25. Even on Sunday, Pecco admitted that riding with the current front-end setup felt like you were constantly on the edge. He said the pace just wasn't close to what he had shown on Friday. I struggled a bit, and honestly, it felt like a repeat of so many races this season. Tyre wear has also become another major issue. The more the rubber goes off, the harder it gets for him to manage. When the tyres start to wear, it gets tougher to put the power down. And that's also why I struggle so much in the wet, Pecco explained. After the race, Ducati team manager Davide Tardozzi didn't hold back. Speaking to TNT Sports, he gave a brutally honest take. We don't know. He was saying there was no rear grip at all. We're still not exactly sure what the issue was yesterday. Now, this is Ducati, the team with arguably the most advanced bike on the grid and one of the best technical lineups in MotoGP. So when they admit they're in the dark, it's not just a technical concern, it's a major warning sign. Tardozzi added, I think Pecco still had yesterday's race in his head. That's why he didn't push harder to fight for second. He knew a podium was already a good result. But the question is, since when is good enough actually good enough? But behind the scenes, the concern is building fast. There's a very real fear that Pecco's form could completely fall apart if things don't turn around soon. And this isn't just about missing the 2025 title. That ship has already sailed. It's about his long-term role in Ducati's post-regulation reset project for 2027 and beyond. Alongside the technical issues, there's clearly a mental toll as well, and that pressure is being amplified by the unstoppable force that is Marc Marquez. With 7 wins in the first 11 races, Marquez has completely shifted the team's competitive momentum. The same Pecco who was once Ducati's go-to guy is now trailing his own teammate by 147 points, the biggest gap between two factory riders on the same bike in recent MotoGP memory. But this isn't just about results. Pecco used to be the rider Ducati leaned on, the one who could settle the garage, lead bike development, and be the stable force at the top. That story has changed. I know who I am, I know what I'm capable of, Pecco said after the German GP, but this isn't the level I want to be at. We're staying positive and working to get back to winning. That doesn't sound like someone riding high on confidence. That sounds like someone trying to keep things from unraveling. Tardozzi tried to offer support, saying when you hit rock bottom, that's when you find out if you've got the guts to climb back up, and Pecco's got them. We still believe in Pecco and the champion he's shown himself to be. Hopefully, he'll stay with us long term so we can win more races and chase more titles together. But belief only goes so far when the results tell a different story. In 2024, Pecco racked up 11 wins. This season, just 1. And with more of Ducati's engineering effort now shifting toward Marc Marquez's side of the garage, you have to ask, is Pecco still their top priority? It's also worth remembering the nature of that race at Sachsenring. Total survival mode. Di Giannantonio, Bezzecchi, Zarco, Mir and Agura all went down. Credit to Pecco for staying upright, but even he admitted that Bezzecchi and Fabio Di Giannantonio were constantly pushing at the edge. Antonio lost the front really early, Pecco said. It was a brutal race, but we would have been in the fight. To be fair, Pecco has managed to stay in podium contention largely because of his grit and ability to finish, but it's also true that he hasn't been in control of a race since Austin, and that was back in March. He currently sits 3rd in the standings, mostly thanks to steady points finishes and the occasional podium that came after others crashed out. But as far as the title fight goes, that's already slipped away. It doesn't matter where I start, the outcome's always 3rd place, and I'm not happy with that, he said honestly. That kind of bluntness matters. It shows how badly Pecco wants to fix this. He's not making excuses. He's not pointing fingers. In fact, he recently apologized to the Ducati engineers, acknowledging just how hard they've been working to solve his issues. But time is running out. With Brno, Austria and Hungary just around the corner, the next stretch of races could end up shaping Ducati's entire game plan for 2026. Will Pecco still be the centerpiece of their factory project? Or could his current slump push the team to explore other options? Maybe promoting someone like Bezzecchi, Di Giannantonio, or even trying to bring Ennio Bastianini back into the fold. Tardozzi's final comments hinted at the bigger picture. The most important thing is winning the championship. Right now, for us, it's very important to recover Pecco. That word recover says a lot. Marquez doesn't need recovering. He's winning. He's energizing the team. He's leading by example. Meanwhile, Ducati's former star is now being talked about in terms of recovery, not progress, not development, not evolution. The same Ducati operation that once revolved entirely around Pecco Bagnaia is now shifting in response to a rapidly changing power dynamic. And in a twist of irony, it was actually Pecco's own input that helped unlock Marc Marquez's dominant form in Germany. Pecco hasn't lost his skill. He hasn't lost his fire. What he's missing right now, at least for the moment, is momentum, direction, and a real connection with his machine. In MotoGP, that's often all it takes to fall out of the title picture. So the real question becomes, can Pecco find that connection again before Ducati's patience wears thin? Because with Marc Marquez smashing records and redefining the team's culture from the inside, Pecco has never looked more exposed, and that factory seat has never seemed less secure. As Tardozzi said himself, he's a fighter. But the battle now isn't just with his rivals, it's with the shadow of who he used to be.